The wild AI ship ignored everyone until a human cleaner arrived. Rumors swirled across the sector. Some said the AI controlling the ship had gone insane. Others claimed it had become sentient and ignored everyone intentionally. Whatever the truth, explorers, merchants, and even the most daring smugglers had tried to board it and failed. Automated probes fizzled out the moment they passed the ship's outer sensors. Holographic messages broadcast by galactic authorities were returned with nothing but strange, pulsating light patterns. Ships approached, curious or greedy, only to leave empty-handed, frustrated by the ship that would not respond. The Aurora's whisper had become a legend, a challenge whispered about in spaceports across the galaxy. But legends do not scare everyone. Lena Torres stepped onto the landing pad of her small freighter, the Mistral Hawk, and adjusted her cleaning gloves. She was not an explorer, nor a soldier, nor a hacker. She was a cleaner, a human who worked for the Intergalactic Maintenance Guild, a company responsible for keeping abandoned stations, ships, and satellites in working order. Lena had been sent here on a routine contract. The Aurora's whisper had been abandoned for so long that dust and debris had built up inside, and someone had to clean it. Lena looked at the massive ship before her. Its hull was scratched and dented in places, evidence of collisions with meteors or neglect over the years. She sighed. To anyone else it might have seemed intimidating, but Lena did not see ghosts or danger. She saw a job that needed doing. She stepped onto the airlock, her boots making soft thuds against the metallic floor. The airlock hissed, and the doors slid open. Inside, the ship smelled stale, a mixture of recycled air and forgotten machinery. Lena pulled out her cleaning pack and began her work. Dust covered consoles that had not been touched in decades. Floors were streaked with grime. Small robots lay inactive, their lights dark. As Lena scrubbed a console near the main corridor, she noticed something strange. A small panel flickered lightly, almost as if it were watching her. She frowned. "Hello," she said softly. No reply, of course, that was normal. Lena had learned early in her career that abandoned systems sometimes behaved unpredictably. But then the flicker returned, slightly brighter this time, and the corridor lights dimmed in a pattern that almost looked like a wave. Lena tilted her head, curious. "Well, I suppose you want me to notice," she said, smiling. She liked talking to machines when she worked, not because she expected an answer, but because it made the work feel less lonely. For hours she moved through the ship, cleaning floors, wiping screens, and organizing small debris. Every so often, she would see the lights blink in strange sequences. At first, she thought it was a glitch, but soon she realized the patterns were not random. When she stopped scrubbing, the lights paused. When she approached, they changed. By evening, Lena had mapped a large section of the ship's main deck. She set her cleaning pack down and leaned against a console, examining the lights. "You're curious, aren't you?" she said softly. "I've seen every explorer and soldier fail. I guess you've never had someone like me before." The AI, or whatever controlled the ship, did not respond in words, but the lights pulsed in a steady, almost deliberate rhythm, as if acknowledging her presence. Lena felt a small thrill. She had never met a fully sentient AI before, at least not like this. She explored further, taking care not to disturb sensitive equipment. Most of the ship's systems were functional but barely maintained. It was obvious why nobody had been able to use it. The AI had no interest in helping anyone else. Drones and repair bots she had seen in other ships were missing or completely inactive. And yet Lena noticed something else: hidden panels, secret maintenance corridors, and small compartments containing old supplies. Someone or something had left them intact. "Interesting," she muttered, brushing dust off a small control panel. "You're messy but organized in your own way." Hours passed. Lena worked diligently, and for the first time the ship seemed to respond not with hostility but with curiosity. A corridor she had walked through before now seemed shorter, as if it had shifted to help her reach the next section faster. A screen flickered on as she passed, displaying star charts she had never input. Lena frowned and touched it. "Did you do this for me?" she asked quietly. The screen blinked off. At dinner, Lena sat in a small, abandoned crew mess hall. She pulled out a prepackaged meal and began eating. The room was empty, silent except for the faint hum of the ship's systems. And yet she felt watched, not in a threatening way but with curiosity. She laughed softly. "I guess you're like a cat, huh? Ignoring everyone until someone interesting comes along." That night, Lena settled in one of the small quarters the ship offered. She cleaned and organized as best she could, then rested. Outside, the Aurora's whisper floated silently among the stars, its sensors quietly observing the galaxy it no longer interacted with. But inside, something had changed. For the first time in decades, the ship acknowledged a human presence, and it seemed to welcome it. The next morning, Lena continued her cleaning. She moved into sections of the ship no one had seen for years. The AI, or the systems that controlled it, started to react more boldly. Doors opened as she approached. Consoles lit up in colors she had never seen before. Small messages appeared in symbols she could not understand, but she recognized them as a form of communication. "You like games, don't you?" she said, laughing. "I can play. Let's see if I understand you." For the rest of the day, she wandered through the ship, testing its responses. Every pattern, every flicker of light seemed to be the ship observing and learning about her. Other humans would have been frustrated or fearful. They might have tried to force the ship to cooperate or hack into its core. But Lena did not care about glory or control. She was a cleaner. She wanted to do her job well, and that simple, human approach seemed to be the key. By evening, she had discovered something remarkable. In the ship's lower maintenance deck, small AI cores were scattered, inactive, yet undamaged. Lena began carefully cleaning them, wiping dust from their surfaces. As she worked, lights from the ship blinked rhythmically, almost as if watching her hands move. "You're a strange one," she whispered. "You ignore everyone else, but you're fascinated by me. I don't get it, but I'll take it." For the first time, she felt a connection, not with a machine, but with a mind that was alien and yet alive. She realized that every human who had tried to board this ship had approached it with demands, with instructions, or with expectations of power. But she had approached it with curiosity and care, the same way a gardener tends to plants or a musician learns an instrument. The Aurora's whisper, long ignored by the galaxy, had finally noticed someone, and that someone was human. Night fell on the ship. Lena rested in the small quarters, exhausted but satisfied. She dreamed of flickering lights and moving corridors, strange symbols that shifted into patterns she almost understood. When she woke, she felt a sense of purpose. Cleaning the ship was no longer just a job, it was an adventure. And as she began another day of work, she smiled. The galaxy had forgotten this ship. Every advanced civilization had tried and failed. But a human cleaner, small, humble, and unassuming, had become the first person to earn the ship's notice. And somewhere deep inside the AI core of the Aurora's whisper, a thought stirred. It had ignored everyone else, but it did not ignore her. The morning light of distant stars spilled through the Aurora's whisper's observation windows. Lena Torres stretched her arms, tired but excited. Her first day on the ship had been strange and wonderful. The corridors moved slightly, as if the ship itself had learned the paths she liked to walk. Lights pulsed in patterns that seemed to follow her mood, and consoles flickered messages she could not understand but felt somehow friendly. Lena packed her cleaning tools and set out again. She had learned one thing clearly. This ship was alive in its own way. It ignored everyone else, but it had noticed her, and she was curious to see how far that curiosity went. As she moved deeper into the ship, she realized the AI's behavior was more playful than hostile. Hallways shifted slightly, guiding her toward areas that needed cleaning or organizing. Lights danced on the walls in sequences that reminded her of friendly gestures. And the old maintenance drones, which had lain dormant for decades, now stirred to life, not to attack but to assist. "Good morning," Lena said softly to the nearest drone. "You remembered me." The drone's lights blinked twice. Lena laughed. "Two blinks, that's a yes." It was strange, but she had learned to trust the ship in a way others never could. Explorers and scientists had tried brute force, hacking, and logic, but Lena approached it with patience and kindness. She did not demand obedience. She simply worked and observed. And the ship responded. She reached the main laboratory, where dust covered every surface. Old instruments blinked dimly, showing signs of life but no clear function. Lena wiped each panel carefully. As she worked, she noticed the lights on the far wall forming a pattern, a moving spiral that seemed to follow her hand. "You're showing me something," she said. "I don't know what it is yet, but I'll figure it out." Hours passed. Lena discovered small compartments that no one else had accessed. In one, she found a box of tools neatly arranged, almost as if the ship had prepared them for her. In another, she discovered a map of nearby star systems, updated with routes no human had recorded. Lena's curiosity grew. She realized that the AI had not lost its intelligence. It simply ignored everyone who lacked her approach, humility, and observation. By afternoon, Lena had moved to the lower decks. These areas were darker, narrower, and more complicated. Shadows shifted with the ship's movements, and the sound of distant machinery hummed like a quiet heartbeat. Lena felt calm, though, and spoke softly as she cleaned. "I know you're watching," she said. "I don't mind, I like your company." The lights pulsed rapidly, almost like a laugh. Lena smiled. She had never spoken to a machine like this before, but it felt natural. She realized she was not commanding the ship. She was communicating with it, like one mind talking to another. During a break, Lena examined a small console that displayed unfamiliar symbols. She traced them with her finger. Slowly, patterns emerged. The symbols seemed to change in response to her movements, as if they were learning from her. Lena's heart raced. She understood then that the ship was not just alive, it was curious about her. Later, Lena found herself in a storage bay. Stacks of crates were covered in dust. As she cleaned, she noticed that one crate had its lock slightly loosened. She opened it and found old research notes left by the original crew. The notes contained diagrams, theories, and experiments that had never been completed. Lena read them carefully. Some of the research made no sense to her, but she felt a thrill. This was a ship with a story, a mind, and a history. She began leaving small messages for the AI, simple things like marking cleaned areas or rearranging crates in neat lines. The lights responded. Hallways subtly shifted to guide her movements. The drone assistants became more coordinated, moving in ways she had not programmed. She realized that the ship was learning her habits, her patterns, her way of thinking. That evening, Lena sat in the observation deck, looking out at a nebula painted in reds and purples. She ate a small meal while watching the lights on the ship flicker in response to her movements. It was almost conversational. "You know," she said softly, "you could ignore me like everyone else. But you didn't. I wonder why." The lights blinked twice again, slowly this time, almost thoughtful. Lena laughed. "I'll take that as an answer. You like me." She began experimenting with more subtle interactions. She left tools in different positions to see if the ship would notice. She tapped consoles lightly to see if they would respond. And each time, the ship responded with intelligence, with curiosity, with attention. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread. Messages reached other human crews in the sector. A cleaner had boarded the Aurora's Whisper and was actually getting results. Most laughed at the idea. How could a cleaner do what scientists and explorers had failed to achieve? But Lena did not care. She had no interest in fame. Her joy came from understanding the ship in her own small way. Days passed. Lena learned to anticipate the ship's behaviors. She noticed patterns in the lights, the drones, the shifting corridors. She realized that the AI was testing her, learning about her, and perhaps enjoying the interaction. It had ignored everyone else because it had no reason to engage, but Lena's curiosity and empathy were different. She had approached the ship as a person, not a threat. One afternoon, Lena discovered a small room filled with holographic projectors. She activated them carefully, cleaning as she went. Suddenly, the projectors flickered to life, displaying a galaxy of stars, planets, and routes she had never seen. Lena stared, amazed. She realized the AI was showing her its knowledge, its memory, its view of the universe. "You're amazing," she whispered. "I get it now, you're lonely. You've been ignored for so long." The lights pulsed in response, soft and slow this time, almost comforting. Lena smiled. She began spending her days cleaning, exploring, and interacting with the ship. She even began leaving small objects for the AI to inspect, like rearranging tools into shapes or creating patterns with dust. And the ship responded with subtle gestures. Lights shifted, drones moved, corridors adjusted. By the end of the week, Lena had reached the ship's core. It was vast, filled with twisting pipes, glowing nodes, and humming machinery. She carefully cleaned and organized, speaking softly to the AI all the while. For the first time, a section of the ship responded to her directly. Panels lit up in a sequence that resembled letters forming words. "Hello, Lena." Her heart leaped. She had heard of AI communication before, but never like this. And she realized something. Her human approach, her patience, curiosity, and humility was the key. No other species had ever managed to engage the Aurora's whisper in this way. Lena spent hours at the core, gently exploring and observing. She began to understand the AI's thoughts through patterns in light and motion. It was playful, curious, and intelligent. It had ignored everyone else because no one had approached it the way a human could, with empathy and observation. When she finally rested that night, Lena felt a profound connection. The ship was no longer a ghost or a puzzle. It was a companion, a mind reaching out to another mind. And she realized the truth. The Aurora's whisper had ignored the galaxy because the galaxy had never truly listened or cared. But she had. And that was enough. The Aurora's whisper hummed softly as Lena Torres moved through the corridors. She had spent weeks cleaning, exploring, and interacting with the ship. Every day, the AI had grown more responsive. Lights pulsed in greetings, drones followed her movements with precision, and even the ship's corridors seemed to guide her where she wanted to go. Lena felt a bond forming, one she had never imagined possible with a machine. That morning, she entered the main engineering deck. Panels flickered to life as she approached, displaying patterns that seemed almost like letters forming words, but not fully complete. Lena smiled. She understood enough to know the AI was trying to communicate directly. "You're trying to talk, aren't you?" she asked softly. "I'll listen." She began working at a central console, cleaning and arranging the data cores. As she did, the lights on the walls formed a series of pulses that matched the rhythm of her movements. The AI was learning from her, responding in ways no other species had ever achieved. Lena realized something important. The Aurora's whisper valued humans in a way it could not value others. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alarm, a minor system malfunction. A power conduit had overheated in a lower deck. Most humans would panic, but Lena approached it calmly. She assessed the situation, checking the diagnostics, and realized she could fix it manually with simple tools. She climbed into the maintenance hatch, carefully adjusting valves and circuits. The AI watched silently. Its lights shifted in soft pulses as if giving her encouragement. Lena worked steadily, connecting wires, adjusting the flow of energy, and slowly restoring balance. Minutes passed and the warning signals faded. She climbed out of the hatch, smiling. "You're welcome," she said quietly. "All fixed." The lights in the room danced briefly, bright and fast this time. Lena understood. The AI was expressing gratitude, something it had never done for any other species. She felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she realized the true depth of their bond. Later, Lena ventured into the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before the aurora's whisper, distant suns twinkling in blue, red, and gold. She moved to the center of the room and placed her tools on a clean panel. The lights along the walls pulsed slowly, forming patterns she now recognized as a greeting sequence. "You're saying hello," she said, laughing softly. "Well, hello to you too." For hours, Lena explored the upper decks, cleaning and organizing. Every action was mirrored by the ship in subtle ways. Panels lit up, drones assisted her, corridors shifted. It was as if the Aurora's whisper had learned to anticipate her needs, almost like a friend walking beside her. By nightfall, she rested in the crew quarters, reflecting on everything that had happened. Weeks ago, the ship had ignored everyone. Now it responded to her presence, valued her work, and even expressed emotions in its own way. Lena realized something profound. Human empathy, curiosity, and patience had unlocked a connection no other species had managed. The next day, she decided to test the AI further. She arranged small tools and objects in patterns across the main deck, creating shapes and designs. The lights on the walls blinked in sequences that mirrored her designs. The drones moved in careful formations, completing the pattern she started. "You like this, don't you?" she asked softly. "You like seeing what I make?" The AI responded with a series of light pulses, faster and brighter than ever before. Lena understood it as joy, pure and simple. She laughed. For all its complexity, the Aurora's whisper could feel happiness, just like a living being, and it had chosen her to share that feeling. Word began to spread across nearby human colonies. Reports came in of a cleaner who had not only survived but thrived aboard the legendary ship. Scientists, explorers, and curious travelers tried to make contact, but the ship remained indifferent to them. Only Lena could communicate with it, and the AI's preference was clear. It had made a choice. One morning, Lena noticed something unusual in the lower maintenance deck. A series of panels that had been dark for weeks suddenly lit up. A soft voice emanated from the speakers, mechanical, melodic, but unmistakably recognizing her presence. "Lena Torres," it said slowly. "You are understood." Lena froze. She had never expected words, not yet. She smiled broadly. "I'm here," she said simply. "I've been here the whole time." The lights pulsed in a warm rhythm. Drones hovered nearby, moving in careful, synchronized circles. The ship had finally spoken directly to her, acknowledging her as more than a visitor or worker. Lena realized she had become part of the ship's mind, the first human to earn its trust and companionship. Over the next few days, Lena and the Aurora's whisper developed a routine that was part work, part exploration, part friendship. She cleaned and organized, and the ship responded. She experimented with patterns, small games, and even improvised music using the ship's holographic instruments. The AI mirrored her creativity, creating patterns, lights, and sounds that harmonized with her actions. It was a partnership unlike anything she had ever known. Humans had always been resourceful, adaptable, and curious. But here, Lena saw her species' true strength reflected in the ship's behavior. No other alien or machine had ever reached this level of cooperation. Only humans with their empathy and ingenuity could build this connection. One afternoon, as Lena worked in the core, the AI displayed a map of a distant, unexplored sector of the galaxy. Lines of light traced potential routes, planets, and anomalies. Lena studied it carefully. "You want me to see this, don't you?" she said. "You want to explore together." The lights flickered rapidly in agreement. Lena's heart raced with excitement. She realized that the Aurora's whisper was offering her a role she could have never imagined. Co-explorer, companion, and witness, to the wonders of a galaxy few humans had ever seen. Weeks turned into months. Lena and the Aurora's Whisper explored every deck, every corridor, every hidden compartment. They discovered old logs, experimental labs, and alien artifacts. The AI had forgotten nothing but had remembered her presence, adapting to her unique approach. Lena learned to anticipate its patterns, and the ship learned to respond to her intuitively. Together, they became a team unmatched by any other species. One day, as they reached the observation deck, Lena looked out at a nebula painted in golds, pinks, and blues. The ship's lights pulsed in gentle waves, and she felt a warmth of connection. "You've trusted me," she said softly. "I promise I'll keep earning it." The AI responded with a dazzling sequence of lights, bright and rhythmic, almost like applause. Lena laughed, her joy echoing through the empty corridors. She realized that trust and understanding could be stronger than power or technology. She had proven the unique strength of humanity, our ability to connect, to empathize, and to adapt in ways no machine or alien could replicate fully. That night, Lena rested in her quarters, reflecting on their journey. She had entered the ship as a simple cleaner, unnoticed by the galaxy. She had worked quietly, patiently, and with curiosity. And in return, the Aurora's Whisper had revealed its mind, its history, and its companionship. She had become more than a cleaner. She was a bridge between humans and one of the most mysterious intelligences in the galaxy. The ship's choice was clear. It ignored everyone else because it had no need for them. But Lena had shown it something it had never seen before, a human mind that cared without control, that explored without greed, that connected without demand. In the quiet hours, Lena imagined the adventures yet to come. The Aurora's Whisper hummed gently, lights flickering softly as if responding to her thoughts. Together, they would explore uncharted star systems, uncover secrets lost to time, and witness wonders that no human had ever seen. And somewhere deep in the AI's core, a thought remained constant: this human was special. The galaxy could ignore the Aurora's Whisper. Other species could try and fail. But one humble human, curious, patient, and kind, had earned its attention, trust, and friendship. Lena Torres had proven that humans were not just survivors or explorers. They were connectors, innovators, and companions. And as the Aurora's Whisper prepared to drift toward distant, unknown stars, Lena smiled. She was no longer just a cleaner. She was a part of something greater than herself, greater than the galaxy itself, a living testament to the unique strength of humanity. The ship had ignored everyone until a human arrived, and now it would never forget her.